communion circle, the earth, one planet, round, global, so that when you trace its shape with your finger, you end up where you started. It's one, it's whole. All the dotted lines we draw on our maps of this globe of this globe are just that, dotted lines. They smear easily. Oceans can be crossed. Even the desert can be crossed. The grain that grows on one side of the border tastes just as good as the grain on the other side. Moreover, bread made from rice is just as nourishing to our body and spirit as bread made from corn, or spelt, or teff, or wheat, or barley. There is no superior land, no choice in sight, no divine destiny falling on any one nation. Who draws these dots, lines just so? There is one earth we all share, we the living, with all else that lives and does not live. Everything. Everything for good or ill is part of the shared whole. Sky, earth, song, words, and now this blessed silence.
Today, we are blessed to gather together in this community once again. We brought our busy selves, our joyful selves, our broken-hearted selves to this place because we hunger. We hunger for things that we cannot always identify, but we come here hoping to have that hunger filled. William Swing says there is a hunger beyond food that's expressed in food. And that is why feeding is always a kind of a miracle. It speaks to that bigger desire. Today, as we gather seeking a means to satisfy this deeper hunger, Chris Eisel, Sally Shanahan, and Shannon Resch will offer their reflections on what it means to them to break bread with one another. So Chris, if you want to come up and share your reflection.
I'm going to be honest, a couple of weeks ago, Cindy asked me to do this and I said yes. And then day before yesterday, I said, what did I say yes to? And I had to email her and say, I'll do it, whatever it is, but you're going to need to remind me. The concept of breaking bread is, think about that for a minute. How breaking it? Breaking bread. It's not like it's a brick. Well, I guess it could be a brick, but it's also many other things. And so I've kind of got a list of opportunities I've had to share bread with people recently, but never did I break it. So a couple of weeks ago, we had the annual Lebanese dinner at Bonnie's house where we tore pita bread. You tear it and use it as a fork to eat your food, much like Ethiopian injera, where you use that as sort of your soft tortilla chip. Before COVID, where I work, we had an annual work Thanksgiving potluck the week before Thanksgiving. And so this year it came back and I got to have cornbread stuffing with my work Thanksgiving meal. It was wonderful. On Friday night, I went to Third Friday Dine Out with several of us in this room, in fact, and I had a hamburger. So it was a hamburger bun was what I shared with my people, with my church people. And then last night we went to Brittany's musical, several of us, and I ate tortillas, which you don't break tortillas, right? After church this morning, I'm going out to brunch with my son and I get to meet the new woman in his life for the first time. I don't know what we're going to eat, but there will probably be some form of carbohydrate involved that we will share with one another. Tying all of these things together is sharing with my people, my community of music loving young people, my community of Lebanese eating fellow church members, my community at work. And may it always be so. Thank you.
So the Shanahan clan, we really feel like sharing food is our love language. Now, you might notice that it's our love language by the size of most of us, except Brittany, but we love to share food with our friends. We love to invite people to join us to eat. And we haven't always had much. So I found that a good soup is a great equalizer. Who doesn't love soup? And when Terry and I were first married 200 years ago, we lived in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. And there was a lovely couple at the church we attended, and they were rich. Okay, I'm not rich. He owned the shipbuilder that built wooden ships, massive wooden ships, all around the world. And but he built the minesweeping class of ships for the United States Navy. And but we had become friends with them. And I'm like, what can I offer them? You know, I didn't have a job because we were just there pre-comming a ship, and my husband was a frock chief. He didn't make any money. And what could we offer them? And what we offered them was some homemade bread and some honey. Come have some tea and bread and honey. And who isn't happy for that, right? I had a poem that the beginning of it goes like this. Tonight, grave sir, both my poor house and I do equally desire your company. Not that we think us worthy of such a great guest, but that your worth will dignify our peace, our feast.
When I was a young girl through my early 20s, it was typical at least one Sunday a month to go visiting. Maybe this was an experience that you had as well. Visiting would sometimes land me at the home of aunts and uncles and cousins, but the best ones were always the ones that ended up in the gravel and dirt driveway of my maternal grandmother. That woman, barely 5 feet tall and as round as they come, my grandmother had a laugh that would fill a room that traveled from her toes all the way up through her smile. We would barely come through the door when she would say, "Now, what do you want to eat?" She must have been saying that all day to everyone else who came visiting, because the kitchen always smelled of some deliciousness. Yet she always had a way of making you feel like she'd been waiting just for you the whole day. We would sit at the table and watch the matriarch bustle around with her cast iron pots and the crackle of the grease and the oil as the soundtrack of our conversations. I have no recollection of any of the things that we talked about. But to this day, over 25 years since her passing, I fully recall how I felt. I felt loved. I felt valued. I felt needed. I felt like I was enveloped in a warm hug while I was there, and that I would be missed when I left. Even though she had birthed 8 children and answered to grandma for over 20 grandchildren, that woman knew how to break bread. She knew that the food would bind us together, especially when it was made by her loving hand. Without knowing it, she displayed that same radical hospitality that you aspire to. When asked to break bread with someone, to share a meal or even a cup of coffee and a treat, I go in my mind to this loving space, hoping that I can make those around you, make them the way she made me feel. That they are loved and they are valued and they are needed. And absolutely where they should be at that moment in time.
And I suspect that each and every one of you have your own memories, your own stories about what it means to gather together, what it means to feed one another, to receive. Because in the end, that hunger is about our bodies. Our tummies growl, we need to put something in there, but it's about so much more. And each of us has the opportunity to feed another in ways that feed not just our bodies, but our entire beings. So what we're going to do right now is you're invited to take part in a ritual, a communion. And I thought we'd explore a little bit, what is communion? I think as we've heard here, it's an act of sharing. It's the sharing of intimate thoughts and feelings, and particularly those things that touch our hearts. So let us all just take a moment right now to think about what this might mean to each of us, what it means to share communion in this sacred space. So just take a moment and think about that. So I recognize that we each carry our own unique histories with us. I recognize that the act of communion may hold a variety of meanings. Some might be difficult, and some are so life-sustaining. So let us now join together to claim this sharing of bread as a sacred act, an act through which we give thanks for the many blessings in our lives. As we break bread together or tear it or share it or pick it up, let us proclaim that all are welcome at this table. So I'm going to invite you to come to the front of the room to join in this sacred act of sharing. And if you have, if anybody's allergic, needs gluten-free bread, there is a choice up here, along with a few other choices. So you're invited to come and partake in this ritual of hospitality and welcome. On this Sunday before Thanksgiving, let us be grateful for the ways that we do nourish and uplift one another. And if you need someone to bring you something, just raise your hand and we'll be happy to bring you a piece of bread, and we have some cider up here. And to all of our friends who are joining us remotely, join us in the spirit of this. And the next time that you sit down at your table, know that the joy of communion and Thanksgiving is a gift that is ever present. So we're going to have some music playing, and you're all invited to come forward and join us at this welcome table. Bread is something that people all over the world have in common. In many ways, it's a symbol of home. It's a symbol of hospitality. I remember when I was little, the babysitter was the neighbor who lived right next door, just a few steps from my house. And every week she had a baking day, and she made bread for the week. And, we got to make our own little loaves. And bread is just something that is there, the staff of life. Every culture has some kind of bread that is shared. And it's really about that symbol of hospitality. We give thanks for the homes that have kept us safe, the homes that have nurtured us, the homes that have extended welcome to others. At the same time, we know that not all homes are places of safety and comfort. Not all homes offer warmth and welcome. So let us give thanks then for the opportunity to gather here on this day, in this chosen home, a home to which we are invited to bring the fullness of who we are. I have a reading that I want to share with you written by Andre Moll, and it was written in honor of two Unitarians, Martha and Wait Still Sharp. During World War II, they dared to risk their own comfort in order to help save the lives of those whose homes were being broken and divided. As we gather together, may we remember, when you share with me what is most important to you, that is where listening begins. When I show you that I hear you, when I say that your life matters, that is where compassion begins. When I open the door to greet you, that is where hospitality begins. When I venture out to bring you to shelter, that is where love begins. When I risk my comfort to ease your suffering, when I act against hatred, violence, and injustice, that is where courage begins. When we experience the full presence of one another, because of our shared humanity, because of our differences, that is where holy gratitude begins. May this space be a table that is not complete until all are welcome. May this table be a space of beauty where together we create a series of miracles and where all that we share is sacred. Let us now lift our hearts in gratitude on this day in which we are able to recognize the abundance of our lives. Being able to appreciate the ability to care for our loved ones who might be harmed, our compassion for those who are wounded and killed, the joys of being able to share in the delights and the talents of one another. Let us lift our hearts also in remembrance of those who do not have all that they need, those who are afraid, those who are lonely, those who suffer. Let us recognize that the abundance of our lives is meant to be shared. Let us have the courage to go forth into the world to do our part to help satisfy that deeper hunger, the longing for connection, the longing to be at the welcome table. We are connected in so many seen and unseen ways. Let us give thanks for all that nourishes our spirits, as well as the challenges that strengthen us. Let us give thanks for the fullness of our lives. Blessed is the bread that we eat. Blessed is the love that we share. May the bread we share on this day, on every day, remind us of our blessings and inspire us to act with compassion towards those in need, including ourselves.